let's kick off the session. As we discussed, I would not discuss, like, as mentioned in the agenda per se, right? So before I start the session, I'm planning to, uh, actually cover the basic agenda which we planned, right? So we would start with what is data science. I mean, what is the exact all about, right? And why is it one of the sexiest job in the 21st century? Like everywhere you go, be it any white paper or you go over any portal, right? That's the common term which is used all across, right? And why I believe that yes, it's one of the sexiest job of the 21st century, and why this job or this field is about to stay, right? And after we discuss in bits and pieces, I would move on to more of defining what are the roles available in this industry, right? Then I would talk about the growing trends. I mean, what is the market size, what are the projections, right? And then we will at the end of the day, we would we would leave for maybe a 15 minutes window for a simple Q&A session for all of us, wherein I can answer all questions one to one. I hope that's fine, right? So that's today's agenda to start with. And yes, you have any questions, have it noted, and please shoot your questions at the end of the session. So this is together a 1 hour session, out of which 45 minutes I'll be speaking, and the rest 15 to 20 minutes I would leave the session open to all of you to chip in. I hope that's fine. So do you have any questions before I start up the session? So are you okay with the format of the session? So I just wanted to understand. So if you guys are okay, maybe you can give me a heads up on the chat window itself. I'll start off. Okay, I think it's quite early morning, still early morning. That's the reason we are catching up. Okay, cool. So that great. I have a few hands up. Great. Thanks, guys. Could I start with my professional career? Yeah, obviously, everyone wants to brag about themselves, right? But I don't have much to, Prakash. But yes, let me start about introducing myself first. Like who am I, and why am I? Why am I over here, right? These are the two basic questions maybe I should answer. Yeah, I'm Anurag. So I work for Accenture Consulting. I have an experience of close to 5 years into data science and consulting across client-facing roles in India as well as in Dubai. So I was based out of Dubai last year. I just came India, this year, and joined back at Accenture. Now, the type of, I would say, roles / clients with whom I have worked with. Obviously, I would be able to name some of them, but obviously, I can help you with, having a brief understanding of what I do, right? So I have worked for a lot of bankers, for insurers, for retailers, for healthcare giants, for oil and natural gas clients, and I would say at least 70 to 80% of them are Fortune 500 clients, right? So I usually help Fortune 500 clients to take intelligent decisions, right? And to build impact, right? To get impact out of data. So that's what my role is. So at the end of the day, I'm more of a data science consultant with a combination, with a flavor of data scientist, right? So I would, go ahead and explain the difference per se of a data scientist and a data science consultant later in the session, right? I hope that's fine when we talk about role clarifications, right? At the penultimate of the session. So guys, yes, that's my experience. And yes, the type of projects I have led, I've worked on are usually advanced analytics projects, AI, data science involving machine learning, deep learning, right? So these are the hot buzzwords I think everyone is, looking around. Yes, that's what my professional experience altogether, right? I'm based out of Bangalore. First of all, I should have told you that I'm based out of the Silicon Valley of the country. Yeah, so that's a quick introduction, I think, about myself. So now, before starting about what is data science, I would like to cover. I would say, how did I move into data science? Maybe for a minute's time. So yes, I was as every other Indian, an engineering student. I graduated in 2014 from a private engineering college in Kolkata. So, when mass recruiting companies used to come down to my campus, right? So there was a common designation which was, offered to across, I would say, all of us, right? That was either a software engineer or a system engineer. So there were a couple of companies who came down and who offered some lucrative roles like, business analyst. So I was literally not sure about what a business analyst does in my fourth year of engineering when companies came down, right? So I went onto the web and I looked about what is a business analyst do, right? Then I understood that business analyst can be an ITBA who actually gathers requirement and helps developers, build the application or, build the tool, whatever, right? There's another type of business analyst who actually works in something called analytics. And that was something a very new jazzy term for me. I didn't have any clue about it. So my first job was, testing software. So I was a software tester for around 7 to 8 months. So when I arrived at Bangalore, so I just wanted to do analytics anyhow. I mean, so it was something which I just wanted to do, irrespective of anything. So I went up to a couple of places and understood that yes, this is my calling, and I left my job. I left my job to do analytics. So that's the way how I moved into analytics. And I think this is a very good precursor for everyone to understand that if I can do analytics, anyone can do analytics, right? So I was never so I was a bottomer in my engineering college, followed by a testing job, and then moving into analytics by learning analytics, right? So learning is the only key in this entire field, I would say, which would make you successful, right? So that is how I started. So I just thought of covering that also, because this is a very good session to share and exchange your thoughts, right? So that's my story altogether. Now, talking about what is data science, right? So this is, I would say, another fancy term which you would maybe see across in newspapers and ads across Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere, right? So what is data science? So I believe that many of us in the class are very new to data science and would need a basic handholding to understand what is data science, right? So I define data science as a combination of art and science, right? So data science is art and science. Now, why do I call it a combination of art and science? Because if you go by a typical definition of data science, what it means that it is the method, it's the method of the science or the art also, right? To extract information out of structured, unstructured data. So for now, leave the abstraction of structure and unstructured, just concentrate on data. So data science is a way to extract information out of data. It's as simple as that, right? Now, extracting involves, I would say, a couple of ways, right? One is obviously using algorithms, which you will learn, right, if you want to move into data science. Second is also, I would say, discretion of the person who is dealing with the data, right? The data scientist per se, right? So that's an art. Getting information out of data is an art. It's very similar to, you're talking to someone, you're talking to an individual, you want to extract some really important information, right? You have to be very tactful to actually do that, right? Similarly, that's an art, and I would say data science is also a very parallel analogy that if to that, right? That's the reason I call data science as a combination of art and science, right? Now talking about why data science, like why will you move into data science? There are like multiple 10,000 other different fields which you can do. So guys, my strong belief, data science is like finding imposter among us. Yeah, I would say. Now, my strong belief, right? So if you ask me like, why am I so convinced about data science? My strong belief about data science is that the amount of data, right? The amount of data is not going to decrease, right? It will exponentially increase, right? Now, what is the reason behind that? Now, just imagine maybe in the early 2000, 2002, 3, 4, right? But internet was still a luxury, right? Across the entire country. Now, with the proliferation of internet, data is everywhere. Like, be it, you go and watch a series in Netflix or on Amazon Prime, or you use Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, anything, right? So every interaction of yours, right? So if you click on maybe the play button in Netflix versus you tweet, everything is a timestamp. It's a data stamp, right? A data stamp is left behind you. So it's very similar to your, I would say, your foot marks, right? So if you walk in a sand, I mean, if you walk on a beach, right? So your foot marks will be there, right? So imagine that the data world is very similar to a beach having sand on it, right? So wherever you walk around, you would leave a foot mark, right? Due to the proliferation of internet, data is rapidly increasing. It's like the volume has, I would say, so we used to talk about KBs and MBs in my school days, right? When I used to use a floppy disk. I believe many of us haven't even heard of floppy disk because we are the old people, right? So now we don't even know what a floppy disk is, right? We don't even know what a CD is or a DVD is, right? Everything is has blown up completely out of the proportion now because due to this proliferation of internet, I would say the data economy has completely changed, right? I would say not completely changed. A new economy has evolved altogether. That's called a data economy. Right? So I would say these are the main reasons for which data science is here to stay, and it will be there. Now, a typical understanding, I would say about the industry per se, as in what how does the industry look like? Like what? So can I tag a dollar value to the industry, right? So I won't name companies, but I would say like there are many Fortune 500 companies who have valuations of around 30 billion, right? The data science industry is a $30 billion industry. Just imagine. Just imagine the scale at which we are talking about. Now, it was nowhere even a 1 billion industry in 2005, right? So it has grown 30x. Now imagine a 30 billion industry in its current form right now with this amount of data around and this amount of, I would say, unused data around, like where is it poised to grow, right? It is poised to grow, I would say, if not less, $1 trillion, right? It can be even more. It can be even more than GDP of a country, believe me. I mean, GDP of a country like India. This is where we are moving, right? And because of this, there are so there is I would say a shortage of data professionals, shortage of data scientists, data consultants, whatever way you think about it, across the entire board, right? So a very commonly termed number of figure, I don't exactly remember the figure right over the top of my mind. McKinsey quotes around, if I'm not wrong, around 2 lakh data professionals will be in shortage, right, in the next few years. So I was reading an article about Canada. So Toronto, the capital of Canada, right? Toronto is about to face just 20,000 shortage of data science professionals. Toronto being such a small, place in terms of its population, right? So there's an enormous, I would say, opportunity that lies in front of you, right? Because data is increasing. That's one. Second, companies have become intelligent, right? Companies have become intelligent. Everyone wants to start their analytics or data science team to become more competitive, right? So I would say these are the two broad perspectives because of which data will actually, proliferate going forward, and it will be the next data economy, right? So now talking about where do we get data from? So I talked about maybe social medias or maybe OTCs, Netflix and Amazons, right? So let me give you some disparate sources of data. So you can get data from ideally maybe an image, a video, an audio, right? Maybe location data, right? When you use Google app, that's the data, right? So even your location is stored, right? So now you'll ask me like what has location to do with data science, right? Just an example. I'll give you a very practical example of mine. So last year I was traveling to Dubai. The time when I reached Dubai airport, I got a message on my cell phone that welcome to Dubai. Do you want to enable your editing? Sorry, enable your roaming facility? And do you want to latch to one of the networks? I mean, there are no Airtels or Vodafones in Dubai, right? There are other telecom providers, and I had to do that. So how did it happen? That's because everyone is tracking my location, right? Now imagine if you wouldn't have been tracked, if your location wouldn't have been tracked, right? Then the company would have missed on that, right? The company wouldn't have sent you that SMS, and I wouldn't have activated the roaming, right? So a simple example how loosely thought about data points are used to target you, right? So these are something which you need to be, I would say, cognizant about, right? So this is, I would say, a brief introduction about data science. Now I would like to talk about very jazzily used terms across AI, machine learning, data science. What are they? So very specifically, what is AI? Think of a human brain first, right? Think of a human brain. What do? You wake up in the morning, you walk to your washroom, and you brush your teeth. That's all. Now, what is AI? Imagine that I would want to create a robot. I would want to create a robot who would wake up in the morning, go to the washroom, and brush the teeth. So how do you do that, right? So obviously, can I transfer my human intelligence to a third party or an external source, or to a or to someone to make the system to be more intelligent, right? Now, how do you do that? So obviously, there are two ways of doing it. First way is that you maybe use a pen and paper, and you write steps, like you wake up, you walk 3 steps straight, then you turn right, you walk again 3 steps, you then turn left, so on and so forth. Then you reach the washroom, you pick the brush, you brush your teeth. That's instruction led, right? So instruction led was a method 20-30 years back. But now imagine that you have a new setup altogether, right? So it's not necessary that you will stay on the same room itself. Maybe you travel quite frequently, you stay across hotels. So how can you replace these rules? Because if you do not replace the rules, you have to change the rules every day if you travel, right? Now you have to train the machine or the robot to do this activity on itself, right? So if you ask me, how do you train without defining rules, is machine learning. Okay. And the intelligence which the robot has now, that I need to wake up in the morning, I need to find the best path, I need to find the shortest path to arrive at the washroom to brush my teeth. That's nothing but, machine learning, right? So are we, understanding this basic concept, difference between AI and machine learning? AI is the intelligence which the robot has, and machine learning is a way to teach the robot. Right? So AI and ML is this, right? Deep learning. So obviously, this is another, I would say, very jazzy term used nowadays. I would say deep learning is an advanced version of machine learning. You don't have to think about deep learning right away, but when you set your foot onto the data science industry, you would know further, right? So these are, I would say, a broad definition, a perspective about data science. I would want to cover, right? Basics of data science, right? Now let's move on to maybe a bit of overview about the data science industry, like how are data science, how is the industry growing, right? Which places are the I would say the best places to be on, to be in terms of being a data scientist. Then maybe we can cover things like, what can you do, right, in this industry as a part of a puzzle. So I believe I already talked about it, that it's a $30 billion industry, and it is poised to grow, I would say, not less than a trillion. That's what my forecast is, right? The hotbed of data science, I would say, the places where it actually happens. I mean, the holy grail of analytics or data science. In India, I would say Bangalore. Right? Bangalore is it houses I would say thousands of data science companies. So the place where I stay in Bangalore, I have around 10 data science companies in within a radius of 2 kilometers. Just believe me, the way how this is exploding. Right? In India, I would say Bangalore, followed by Gurgaon or Noida, then Mumbai, right, and followed by Mumbai's Pune and Kolkata. So these are the main hubs of data science, I would say, right? Now, what are the type of data science teams, that are available across? So I come from a consulting background, right? So I work for Accenture. So typical data science teams involve being it set up in a consulting company, be it an Accenture, McKinsey, BCG, Deloitte, Bain, whatever, right? One is a consulting setup, uh, companies who offer typically management consulting services. Analytics is a part of that company. That's one. Second, there are multiple amazing boutique consulting companies, amazing companies. Like, I would like to name a few of them, maybe Music or Fractal, right? Or maybe a Latent View, or maybe, eClerks. So these are, the boutique companies who actually do only data science. They do not do anything else, right? Your learning curve will be very steep in these companies. It's very similar to like Accenture. So there's a second type of companies. The third type of companies where data science actually happens, I would term them as captive, right? Now, what are captives? Captives are actually the main company is not because of data science, maybe a Flipkart or an Amazon, right? The main business is different, or maybe an Uber, right? The main business is different, but data science is, used to, I would say, take intelligent decisions within the company, right? There's a separate data science department within the company, right? Now, within the captive environment, there are multiple segments, right? So you can talk about many banks, right? Maybe an HSBC or a city. They do amazing work, right? So obviously, I'm not naming a lot of them. It doesn't mean that the others don't do. So every one of them actually does amazing work these days, right? So one segment is, I would say, we've got a bunch of banks or investment banks who do data science. They have good teams based on Noida, Kolkata, Bangalore, right? And there are some Indian banks too, right, who have analytics setups based out of, Mumbai usually, right? Mumbai, Pune. So that's an example of banks, right? Second, I think everyone has heard about Walmart or Tesco or Target, right? So these are typical the retailers, right? So the retailers also do have a data science practice within their team itself, right? So yes, they do great work. They are mainly across Bangalore, I would say, right? So yes, so the mainly the analytics of data science teams are concentrated across the financial services sector and the retail, right? Yeah, it's not that, it's not there across other sectors. There are healthcare, maybe, Novartis or a UAG, right, which have healthcare analytics teams, and they do great, right? But yes, so I think you can, research a bit about what are the captive teams available in different countries, sorry, in different companies per se, right? So maybe a set of banking companies, a set of retailers, a set of healthcares, right? So these are the broad, I would say, captive teams available. And yes, so joining these captive teams, it's a very good decision, I would take. It's a very good decision, very similar to joining a consulting company or joining a boutique consulting company, because while working in a captive company, you will understand the business really, really well, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean that you won't understand the business working in the previous couple of segments, but yes, in captives, it's an amazing experience, right? I haven't worked in a captive specifically, but yes, you can, go ahead and explore, right? So this is how the entire data science industry is spread across, right? So in the interest of time, let me move on to the next topic, and we can take all question and answers, at the end of the session. I hope that is fine with you guys, right? So now talking about the typical roles which are available in this data science industry, let me talk about them a bit, right? Yes, I understand that, there are uh, there's a combination of various type of, I would say, a mixture of talent available in this crowd, who are at the different junctures of the career, right? Maybe someone is working somewhere, not doing data science. Someone is doing data science now, right? Or someone is, maybe starting right now with us at Board Infinity, right? Or at some other places, right? And trying to, set your foot onto the industry, right? So for everyone, depending on your background, you can tailor make your career, right? And because there are multiple roles available, right? So let's start with, what I do. So I'm a data science consultant. So the role of a data science consultant is to be, first of all, yes, to be business savvy, right? So you should have a passion, you should have a thirst for solving business problems. That is the most important thing. You shouldn't be fancied about just using algorithm without getting any tangible benefit out of them. So it's not a science experiment, I'll tell you. Data science is not a science experiment. It's about driving impacts, right? That's what we consultants are taught about. So you have to be business savvy for being a consultant. One. Second, presentable, obviously. Third, no statistics. Have a lot of common sense. No design thinking, right? And yes, the most important, you should be tech savvy. And you should know, to code. If you don't know how to code, it's very difficult to become a consultant, I would say, right? Because we are not, at the end of the day, we are not management consultant, right? We are data science consultants. So it's very necessary that you talk the same language with the client talks about, but keeping in mind that you have to implement that solution, right? It's not just developing that presentation. That is something really important for a data science consultant, right? So it's a combination of all of these parameters I told you should have. Second, being a data scientist, right? Now, for being a data scientist is a more specified field, I would say, right? Which would require more technical expertise, in-depth expertise, right? Yes, I would say that there's a good overlap of a data science consultant and a data scientist job role, but data scientist job role is more technical. It's really, really technical in nature. I mean, people would expect you to, develop solutions in data science as well as deploy those solutions, right? So it's a pretty basic thing you need to understand that, developing a solution is not the end, right? You have to deploy it on the client system, on the client server, right? So usually the data science consultants do less of that, but data scientists are also concerned with building, I would say, solutions which can be deployable, working with tougher problems in terms of technical nitty-gritties. Like maybe data science consultant would be interested in maybe, solving a problem that is more business savvy, whereas a data scientist would be interested in solving a problem that is more technically challenging, right? Maybe, doing a handwriting recognition, right? Now the reason is that now when you're a consultant, you don't have, that amount of time to spend on a project, right? So you don't have, I would say, a year or a 2-year time to do research, right? So you're a consultant, you need to provide solutions on the feet. Okay? Whereas a data scientist is more of a research work, right? So you can research around things, you can come up with solutions, but that doesn't mean that data scientists are not the people who solve problem. Data scientists are the people who are at the core of the problem, right? They solve problem, but there is also a flavor of research, tagged to it, right? So that's the second category, I would say. Now talking about the third category, which is very commonly I would say used nowadays, is data engineer, right? Now I understand that maybe a lot of people around, right, are from engineering background, right? And you might find it very difficult to learn statistics. That's very normal, right? So what can you do? So how can you set your foot onto the industry? You can be a data engineer. Believe me, a data engineer is as glamorous a job as a data scientist. It's same. So what is the role of a data scientist, of data engineer? So the role of a data engineer specifically is to build data pipelines, is to deploy solutions. So a team of a data science always comprises of a data science consultant, a data scientist, and data engineer. These are the basic 3 pillars of a data science team. Why? Because if a solution that a data science consultant or a data scientist develops, at the end of the day, that needs to be deployed. That needs to be deployed on the server, right? Or maybe, at the end of the day, maybe, a data scientist creates a UI in Python, right? At the end of the day, who will work on the backend? Who will work on the backend system? Someone has to develop it, right? That's the point where data engineers come in, right? Building the entire pipeline of data and moving the entire data science solution to production. That's why data engineers come into place. And believe me, data engineers are no less glamorous job. I told you earlier, right? I've got friends who work in amazing companies in Europe, right? Who are data engineers, and they're doing really well, right? So if you ask me about the salary specifically of data science consultant versus data scientist versus data science engineer, I would say I wouldn't comment on who should get more salary. Obviously, that's not ethical, I would say, because it completely depends on you, right? If you're an amazing data engineer, you can earn much more than what a data scientist earns. Right? So that's the way I would say, wrapping up the entire data science, I would say spectrum of roles which are available to you, right? And these are the rampantly used tools, I would say, right? And these are like very important. So let me take pause for 30 seconds and let you guys think through what has been covered till now, right? So that you can actually recap and have your questions ready for the session at the end of the session, right? So let me be on pause for the next 30 seconds, if that helps. Let me answer Danny's question. What is data manipulation without knowledge, with knowing the user a crime? So let me try to answer this question. So Danny, obviously, using PII data is a crime, right? Without using PII data without the user's consent is a crime. That's for sure. But yes, I would say using information as in your user behavior, right? So whenever you sign on to an app, right, or you sign on to a service, there are ways in which you ask for consent from the user, that do you agree that I will use your data going forward? If the user agrees, then yes, otherwise it's a crime, straightforward. Just one this, can you please help me? Just one, let me park the questions for the end of the session. I mean, so I'll speak for another 10 minutes. After that, we can take up, all your questions. After that, it will be open session for, all of you. Right. Now, guys, I hope that's fine. Yes, exactly. So you can, in the meantime, what you can do, you can, type your questions down in the chat window, right? So that helps you. So that will even help you to, I would say, remember all your doubts, right? And put forward them, right? So you can just, write down your questions in the chat window. I'll be picking up all questions at the end of the session, and I'll be answering each of them. Okay? So yeah, you can do that. Now the question is like, how can you start your career in data science, right? That's a $1 billion question, because I think that's the reason almost all of us over here right now. I mean, how can Anurag help me understand what are my next steps, right? So if he's talking about data science in such a huge, trumpet, right? But what can be done? So there are multiple ways to enter into data science. First of all, let me start with, talking about addressing the kids in the block. When I'm talking about kids in the block, I'm talking about the people who are still in the, colleges, right? So basically, when you're talking about people who are still in the engineering colleges or in the MBAs, right? I would say the first thing which you can do is to look out for, yes, exactly. So you can be your bachelor's, master's, MBA, whatever, right? I think the first thing which you should do is to learn ABCD of data science. First thing, to understand that do you want to actually do this, yes or no, right? So I always encourage that you take up some free resources to start with, okay, before spending even a penny. That's what I believe. So I would suggest that every one of you who want to become a data scientist or a consultant or want to move into this, field of data science, go to Coursera, take up a free course. I would suggest maybe take up this course, your data scientist toolbox from Andrew Ng. It's an amazing course. It's a completely free course if I'm not wrong. Take up that course and see, do you like data science or not? Okay. Do the course, spend a month's time in it. Yes, if you still like what data science is, then come back and do a proper full-fledged course in data science, right? Now, doing a full-fledged course in data science can be of two types, right? It can be either a full-time course, or maybe it can involve in doing, courses like, what we offer at Board Infinity, right? So let me quickly talk through one of the courses, not talk through actually, let me show you. Let me show you one of such courses which I know, I mean, which we offer in Board Infinity. Let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, so this is, so you can go to the website of Board Infinity by typing down boardinfinity.com in the URL window, right? There is a course which will be finding over here, data science, right? So it's a 150 hours course. So I work, so I teach over here. So I am an adjunct faculty in this course, right? So it involves both, a one-to-one personalized mentoring session from, industry professionals like me and my colleagues. Uh, uh, I won't say colleagues, I mean me and my, co-mentors over here, right? So who mentor, data science aspirants. So it's a 150 hours of hybrid learning followed by one-to-one personalized coaching. And then there are also opportunities like, where you can, assess employment opportunities, where, you're encouraged to, face mock interviews with the industry professionals to understand where you should improve going forward. And then, obviously you search your job, right? And obviously there are also, I would say, help, which is, carried out by the Board Infinity folks. They are doing an amazing job, right? So this is one such example which I want to share, right? And if you want to, take this up, as a full-time course, so what can you do? So you can also go for masters in analytics, right? In India, there are some places where you can go for a PGP in analytics or a MB in analytics, right? Or you can, go to US or other countries for doing an MS in analytics or data science. Now let me quickly differentiate between a MS analytics or a PGP analytics and a data science, right? So typically, business analytics is more of business focused, right? And it's offered mainly in a B school. And MS data science is more of, computer science focused, and it's offered in the computing school of a university. Usually, that's the basic difference. So you can opt either one depending on your interest. So this was for the people who are actually the kids on the block, for the people who are there, in the engineering days or the master's days or the or MBAs or like whatever course you are, pursuing right now. So this is the first way of, thinking about data science. Yes, now if you take up some part-time course, and if you don't want to spend maybe a couple of years or a year's time, you can take up a course maybe, online, right? And after you take up a course, you should be very, prudent to look out for opportunities, right? So networking is something really, really important, I would say. I cannot emphasize more on the power of LinkedIn. Believe me, be very active on LinkedIn. Don't spam people, obviously, but yes, be very active on LinkedIn. Add relevant people on LinkedIn, right? Head of analytics, director of analytics, data science managers, and most importantly, find a mentor, right? So if you're still on your school days, on, in your college days or your engineering days or master's days, please find a mentor, an industry mentor, who will actually help you to understand what you should do going forward to set your foot onto the industry, right? Finding a mentor is very important, guys. Second, the professionals who are working right now, but in different fields, but want to move into data science and still want to continue their job, right? Now, for you guys, it's very difficult to leave your, I mean, quit your job and go for masters, right? So what you can do, I would say, again, do the same thing. Go to Coursera, take up this course, understand that if data science is something which is your calling or not. That's first. If it's your calling, then take up a full-fledged course of maybe 2-3 months or 6 months to cover data science in details, right? So when I'm talking about data science in details, study statistics, right? Study maybe machine learning, right? Learn a tool, either Python or R, and obviously learn SQL. So these are the 4 important things which you should learn, right? Excel is a good to have thing. You should know Excel too, because if you don't know Excel, it becomes very difficult going forward, right? These are the 4 to 5 things which you should concentrate, right? So after doing the course online, because you're still working right now, I would advise, yes, even for this group of people, you should find a mentor, an industry mentor to mentor you, right? To help you find maybe a remote internship, right? So that you can both work and intern at the same time. I'm not sure if you can do that, but yes, if you can do that, it will be amazing. I mean, obviously without getting paid, right? Or you can, maybe quit your job and go for a full-time internship, right? Or if you're lucky enough, right, you can. I wouldn't say lucky enough. If you spend considerable amount of effort, you can get a job in data science. It's not a rocket science. Believe me, it's not a rocket science. It's much. It's very doable. If someone can, if someone like me can do, you can do for sure. I can tell you that for sure, right? Yes, I would say that because I was in the same place where you were, right? So I was working somewhere. I was doing something which I didn't want to do. I wanted to do data science. I did some courses along with, and I moved into data science, right? That's how I did it. So I think it's a very possible thing solution, and I think you can also do the same thing, right? And this is a second type of people whom I want to talk about. So third category is, I would say, mainly people who have spent considerable amount of years in industry, maybe 7-8 years of considerable amount of time in the industry, and you want to move into data science, right? There can be two ways of doing it. Okay? First, you can leverage your current experience, right? So maybe if you're a you're an engineer who works in an oil and natural gas company, right? So you know your domain very well. You know oil and natural gas very well, right? So try to move into a business intelligence role to start with within the same industry itself, and then try to climb up the ladder to move to data science. Don't just try to move to data science right away because I want to, because in that way what happens, your previous experience goes for a toss, right? So in order to harness your previous experience, to bank on your previous experience, stay on the same vertical, do something that is more related to data science, but don't give up completely on your previous experience. But obviously, yes, that's a very personal choice. I would say I shouldn't comment on that, but yes, that's what I think, right? You can leverage your past experience and try to do some business intelligence, and then gradually move to data science. Right? So that's, I would say, uh, what I think about, right? For these four specific categories of aspirants whom we have. So I think, yes, this was a very quick session of 45 minutes, which I want to talk about. And we are at the neck of that time. And I won't keep you guys holding anyone. So we can go ahead and, take up some questions. I'm good to go. Let me first look at my attendee list. Who are there? Okay. Let me take up each question. I think, Danny, I already answered your question. Just one, can you please tell about a problem and how you solve using data science, your approach and reaching solution? Okay, just for that, that's a very tricky question, so if you ask me, yes, obviously I love talking to people, right? So I can talk about hours about solving a problem. But if you ask me, one of the very good problems which I solved a few days back. Yes, it's obviously not deep learning per se, but I'll just give an example. I was working, for one of the telecom providers of Middle East. I'm actually giving you this example because this is something which you can relate in your daily life, right? I can relate using a cell phone every day. So imagine that you're using a cell phone from a network provider, right? And right now you're on a plan of 500 rupees, right? And the next plan is of maybe 800 rupees, right? There's no plan between 500 and 800. Now, I being a company, right, I would try to increase my revenue any day, right? I would try to sell more things to the customer. So what do you think? Is it easy to sell the next package of 800 rupees to a customer who's already in 500? I don't think so, because the calibration of product is very difficult and different, right? If it would have been 600 or 650, I would have even thought about pushing the product. But due to this huge difference of calibration, we could not we along with the company couldn't sell products, right? Because I wouldn't say sell products, couldn't upsell products, couldn't sell products that are of more value, right? So what did we do? We came up with a concept called product bundling. So imagine that okay, so it's good that I have a 500 rupees plan right now, but I see that your ISD utilization is increasing. I mean, you do more of ISD calls, right? Now, I could have, chosen to pitch another plan that's of 800. I won't do that. Rather, I would try to push a top up. That is that is maybe a top up for getting extra 100 minutes of ISD. So that top up would cost you around maybe 100 rupees, and not that differential 300 of 800 and 500. Right? In that way, at the end of the day, you are actually increasing the revenue per customer, right? And at the same point of time, you're also helping the customer to choose better. Now, how do you decide what to offer to which customer, right? That's a point where one-to-one personalized marketing comes into action, right? So we build some statistical models known as upsell cross-sell model, where you actually sell things by either cross-selling or upselling. Cross-selling is basically you buy a laptop, okay. I also try to push that you also buy a mouse along with it. That's a cross sell. Upsell is basically you buy a laptop worth 50,000 rupees, and I try to sell something which is of more worth. That's maybe of 8,000 rupees. That's the upsell. So in this scenario of telecom, we tried using cross sell scenarios to understand that what are the extra products we can sell along with the existing mother product. I mean the 500 rupees plan. Right? And in that way, using machine learning, we accomplished this entire activity, and we saw phenomenal increase in revenue for the customer. Right? This is a very simple example which I thought of explaining. There are like multiple use cases which I can talk about, but in the interest of time, this is one. Right? Yes, you can also connect with me. I'm available at LinkedIn, so you can connect with me and we can have a discussion maybe later on. If you have still any questions, you can hear with the Board Infinity folks. You can drop a mail to Board Infinity. They'll be more than happy to take up questions too. Can data science be used in share market? See, so that's a bit tricky question. If that would have been used, I would have used data science for doing stock trading, right? So it's a very gray area. Okay, yes, you can forecast stocks, prices of stocks, but obviously, forecasting prices of stocks is not a very easy exercise, because imagine that it's not just dependent on the previous prices, right? It's dependent on various other parameters, many macroeconomic parameters, many events, right? So which you cannot predict, right? So imagine that tomorrow India improves in its COVID performance, right? So maybe a share of a company X right now, which is falling because it's maybe on the retail side, right? It's a retailer. No one goes to retail right now to buy things. Everyone is everything online. Now imagine that India improves drastically in the next 2 months, right? So how will I capture that information, right, without it happening? So these are the few challenges I would say which are posed, right, for forecasting stocks and share prices, right? So because those are dependent on a multitude of different other parameters, right? So I hope I answered your question. Manoj, I did my master's in embedded system. Can I start my data science? Yeah, Manoj, if you ask me, you should start a career in data science, right? That's for sure. You should look for more of a data scientist role, right? Because that would help you justify your, I would say, technical profile. I believe that if you are working in an embedded system, you've already worked in MATLAB, right? And MATLAB is very similar to R, right? So you can use R. So I mean, the learning curve of R or Python won't be very tough for you, Manoj. So I suggest that you take up career, but more on a data science career. How do we deal with sparse data in innovation? Anshika, that's a good question. Sparse data and innovation. I think you want to talk about sparse data systems, sparse data spread across different systems, right? So the basic tenet of any data science innovation or data science project is getting your data in place, right? To answer this question, there can be sparse data across many different systems available, right? So a very simple example of maybe a typical
let me just think through an easy example for you to explain this one. Okay, let me take an example of maybe Uber, right? Now think of it. The time when you ride. Okay, let's not type past Uber. Let's not talk about any maybe a cab hauler, right? So the time when you actually step on the cab, right? So what are the things that are being captured? A location for sure, right? Your trip details, right? So how many times you've taken trip? That's one. So these are type of details which are very specific to your trip, right? There are other type of details, maybe your age, your gender, where do you stay, which city do you stay, right? So this is another type of details, your demographics, right? So your demographics along with your rider behavior, right? These are two different sparse data systems which are there. These are two different data, right? So at the end of the day, the goal is to build a golden source of data, what we term it as customer analytic record. We stitch in all the data which can be possible for a customer into one data source, and after that try to do data science, AI, machine learning, whatever, to derive insights out of of data. Right? In that way, I would say innovation happens. How can I find jobs in India? Manoj, I think we've covered already that you should be very active on LinkedIn, network very well. You take up internship. So the only way you can get a job, I would say, by your own is LinkedIn, right? So you network well, you reach out to people, ask for mentoring, right? And then you pitch in that so I'm looking for an internship in an organization. Can you please let me know? But you shouldn't spam anyone, right? That doesn't help. So that's the way. What kind of skills a tech company expect from people who has no experience, from both you, who has zero experience? Okay, so basically, Prakash, you're a fresher, right? I think I already covered it. So yes, the expectations of a tech company, I would say yes. If you ask me, I would expect someone who is very new to data science to at least know SQL well, no SQL, no basics of Python, right? No basics of statistics, and I would say no basics of machine learning. I would say don't go into any fancy things, right? So if I'm talking about machine learning, if you're a fresher, okay, so others you can ignore it for now if you don't understand these couple of lines. If you're a fresher talking about machine learning, it's enough to know linear regression, logistic regression, Bayesian tree, random forest. That's all. If you know these four algorithms well, along with maybe some unsupervised algorithm, right? Maybe a k-means or hierarchy. That's enough. Maybe these 5 algorithms are enough to get you a job. I can tell you that for sure. You don't need to learn any complicated algorithm, maybe an SVM or a neural net. That's fine, absolutely fine. But you should know SQL very well. SQL, Excel, Python. Python basics. I mean, you should be able to manipulate data with Python. You need to build models in Python, right? Python and basics of machine learning. Jasmita, this is okay. So welcome, Jasmita. So you are from you're in class 9. Okay, that's so interesting. Can I be data scientist at this age? If yes, what are skills and topics? Can I prefer paid course? Great, Jasmita. It's great meeting you. I think yes, we met over LinkedIn, Jasmita. Thanks a lot for joining. Yes, Jasmita, I think it's same for you. I think that you go to Coursera first. Don't spend any money right away. Go to Coursera and check about and check this course. If you can do this free course to start with, to understand that do you want to do data science, yes or no, right? And then you come to us, to me. I will guide you for sure. You're still a kid, right? So it's amazing, like you have this amount of enthusiasm at this age to become a data scientist. But yes, I would say that pick up a free course to understand that what you would want to do. So Jasmita, just for you, I think learn Excel to start with. Okay, learn Excel and then go to Coursera and start doing this exercise. Shiva, I want to know about what are the opportunities for become graduate after completing completion of the data version of course which companies look over, because I'm not. So Shiva, I'll tell you something. Huh? So first of all, it's never a prerequisite, okay, for you to become an engineer, okay, to do data science. Like it's reality, okay. You can be of any background. Data scientist can be, a psychology grad. Data scientist can be a rocket scientist, and a data scientist can be a BCom grad. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't, matter at all. It's about learning and that thirst or hunger which you have within you. That's all. You learn data science, you do it, so no one actually cares about your background, right? Yeah, so if you know things, you know the nitty-gritty of data science, at least I won't judge you for becoming a BCom grad. Not I think the industry leaders would, because they are quite considerate and they know the reality how the entire industry works. So that's never a laggard for me, for sure. Let me move to the next questions. Anshika, yes, got your question. Great, Jashmita, thank. Data science can be used in share market. Yeah, and I think I asked your question. Yes, you can try using data science in share market. You can try forecasting stocks, but obviously, that won't be sacrosanct. I can tell you for sure, right? Because forecasting stocks is something very tricky. It's very tricky. It involves so many parameters that it's very difficult. I would say it's very difficult. But yes, you can get a baseline measure by forecasting your share price. You can do that. Yeah, that's something very interesting. No, Danny, cloud computing is something different, right? Cloud computing is a different technology altogether. Data science and cloud computing are very different, but yes, nowadays they are used in conjunction with each other. How much Kaggle plays a role and how important? Yeah, Samudra, I expected these questions from you exactly. So Samudra, yes, if you ask me about Kaggle, right? Kaggle is an amazing platform to compete at, right? Yes, you can invest time and you can invest your energy and passion if you have passion to actually participate in hackathons in Kaggle. That really helps you to build credentials. I mean, if you have maybe a decent rank in Kaggle, you don't need your resume, right? Your Kaggle rank suffices that. So if you do well in Kaggle, I think that's amazing. Nothing can be better than that. And if you ask me important, I would say yes. It depends on the job role per se, right? So if you're looking for data science consultant role, right? Yeah, having a Kaggle is a good to have thing, but becoming business savvy is equally important, is more important, I would say, right? I mean, you should know machine learning very well, you should know analytics very well, but understanding business, looking at the entire picture from a bird's eye view is more important. But if you want to, continue your career as a data scientist, or you want to start your career as a data scientist only and not as a consultant, Kaggle is an amazing platform to go and showcase your skills. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, call me up. What is the exact job role in real time for data scientist? Madhukar, it's again an interesting question to answer. What is the exact job role in real time? A job role in real time, Madhukar, will start with starting with gathering requirement from the client, because typically it's very unlike what you see in other industries. Like, there are very clear business problems which need to be solved, but when you're a data scientist, there are expectations at times when client comes to you that what can you do for me? I mean, my sales is decreasing, right? What can you do for me? So these are the open-ended questions you get. So then what are the next steps you would need to do? Maybe you do a workshop with the client to understand the problem in more details. Do interviews, right? Do focus group discussions to understand the problem at hand. So after you narrow down at, okay, these can be the probable problems available, right? Which the client is facing right now. Then you go and start gathering requirement. Okay, so out of the entire spectrum of a huge problem, I can break this problem into 3-4 parts. Then start gathering requirement for each and every 3-4 parts, right? Then after gathering requirement, to translate the business problem to a data science problem, right? So what does it mean? So if I understand that, okay, maybe sales of a retailer is decreasing, I find that, okay, that sales for a typical product line is decreasing, right? That's a business problem. Now, how can you translate that business problem to an analytics problem, right? So after translating that into analytics problem, you find an analytics solution to it. So what can you do, right? Can you do a deep dive analysis to understand? Can you maybe do some exploratory data analysis to understand what is the reason? or can you forecast sales and see, like where will it be going forward in the next quarter, in the next 3 months? Find key drivers why sales is decreasing, right? After you find key drivers and the reason, then maybe you can go around with a solution which can be both, prescriptive as well as descriptive in nature, right? Prescriptive can be, you can identify the key levers of this problem, the key bottleneck of this problem, right? And when you want to move into a more descriptive, more predictive way, now how does it look like? Okay, so I can tell you that, okay, uh, these are the problems which are there currently, but if you fix those problems, what will your sales look like in the next quarter, right? Going forward, what will your sales look like? That's more of a predictive component to it. So that I would say that that's a role where, uh, you know the journey of data science, actually, I would say, stays at that point. But after that, obviously, then comes the data engineers specifically, who come and deploy the solution for you, right? And at the end of the day, obviously, you either build a dashboard, or you build or a predictive model, right? I think that's the overall end-to-end framework, I would say, of a data scientist. What someone does. What are consistent inside of data science? Anshika, I'm not sure if I get your question very well. Can you please rephrase your question? Danny, my family runs two type of business along with job. How can I boost the business? By basic working. By basic working. So Danny, does it mean that you want to do analytics or data science and help increase your performance of the business? I think that's what your point is, right? I think, Danny, that's a very subjective question, right? So that depends on what businesses are you in, right? So you have to understand, first of all, the bottlenecks for which your business is not growing, right? So after you understand the bottlenecks of the reasons, I would say, the business is not growing, then you can think about what can I do, right? First of all, I would say, finding the key problem, and then talking to experts about what you can do going forward. I think, Danny, this is more of a subjective question. We can take it offline in the interest of time. You can write a mail to Board Infinity. We can help you, or you can drop me a message over LinkedIn. Even I'll be more than happy to explain you. I mean, take this in detail. Yeah, Anshika, I think I didn't get your question much. We're already on top of the hour. I'll take two more questions. If you want to shoot two more questions, I'll in the interest of time, I'll take two of them, and then we can wrap up the session. Now, Yashmita, for sure, I'll be more than happy to guide you. Your standard 9. That's an amazing initiative, I would say. That's great. I would guide you, Yashmita, for sure. Drop me a message in LinkedIn. I would. Okay, I think we are good for now, right? We don't have much of questions. We are good. Okay, guys. So before I end my session, first of all, thanks a lot, everyone, for your time and patience. Really appreciate, and it was amazing interacting with all of you. And yes, I wish each and every one of you all the best, and you do great in your careers. And yes, we are there to help you out. Reach out to me if you need any help or other industry leaders. Thank you. Bye bye.